Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm Old Who.
And I'm Victoria Wheeler. I'm New Who.
And we are back in the season of monsters. With yet another new monster, probably the most successful of the monsters introduced in this season. The Ice Warriors. We're doing Ice Warriors. It is what it says on the package. It is Ice Warriors. There's ice, and then there's warriors. And an English manor house, because that was probably the easiest set to fucking build. But we're going to jump to our synopsis from the program guide by Mark Lafesseur, and we'll be right back. The Ice Warrior, Serial 00. Writer, Brian Hales. Director, Derek Martinez. Script editor, Peter Bryant. Producer, Innes Lloyd. Originally aired November 11th through December 16th, 1967. It is England during the Second Ice Age, AD 3000. The Doctor and his companions seek refuge in a scientific base where the ice barrier is being combated with an ionizer. Embedded in the ice, they find a perfectly preserved body. Varga, leader of the Ice Warriors, inhabitants of Mars who visited Earth during its previous ice age in prehistoric time. Revived, Varga captures Victoria and frees the rest of his crew from the ice. Learning that Varga plans to conquer the world, the Doctor manages to save Victoria, and taking over the base, uses the ionizer at full strength to blow up the Warriors' spacecraft and halt the glacier. Another wonderful synopsis from the program guide, The Complete Guide to Every Doctor Who Story by Jean-Marc Lafesseur. Go get one. You need one. You want one. All right, that was the synopsis. I'm going to go first because we're just getting started and we didn't even do our normal catch-up because we're on a window today. First through on this, I was kind of like, is it such a by the numbers? Sometimes, as much as I love the Troutineers, some of them are very, because there's so much that mimics them later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel, it's the base under siege. Which me and Vic both have said we like the base under siege. It works. It was odd and it struck me, and I read it in About Time Guys. They saw it is that it's one of the rare times that we see the Doctor in the first 5 minutes. Normally
we don't see the Doctor in the first 5 minutes.
No, this one it starts with them landing, isn't it? Is it?
No.
I was shocked how quickly he showed up.
No.
Oh no, because they find the Ice Warrior, and you see the people in the weird '60s future garb, the plastic clothes. You're right. It isn't as early as I thought it was. It just struck me that
this is the beginning of that. This is the beginning of that.
Where they start showing
it's
up
almost
later.
like a cold open, right? Like that you really get this sense of. Oh, I can find it. Yeah, because I noticed that it was a longer open, often, particularly. I mean, we just finished watching Planet of the Giants, right? And that's them all clustered around the console, and it's the this one was a very long run up before you actually see.
Yeah.
Before you actually see our companions and the Doctor. And I really like the About Time was really good this time.
Yeah, they weren't as scathing.
No, I mean, I think they had sometimes they go down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
That don't make any sense to me. But
and I'm as someone who's done, theater and plays and shows and stuff like that. Sometimes they go rabbit holes. I'm like, why do you care about that?
Mm-hmm.
So it is, but we all do that. There's certain things that we fixate on in something. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy this one. I mean, it's not my favorite. The Ice Warriors are not my favorite monster. I like them when they're in a good story. But the two Troughton ones are very similar.
Yeah, I mean, I think as they point out, look, my experience of watching this is that I watched everything in order, and I would go through, periods where I would just be devouring them, one after the other, after the other, after the other, and there were parts of the Troughton era that were painful, right? Like we talked the last time we did a Troughton story about Abominable Snowman and what it was like with these long scenes in the corridor with that silver ball.
Yeah.
And so I had just come off of that one, and so I remember loving this one.
Yeah.
The very first time through.
Even though episodes 2 and 3 are both missing.
Right. When I watched it the first time, they were, yeah. And so I was really thrilled because there's great footage, right? There's the doctor pulling faces in this is excellent. Troughton is excellent in this.
Yeah, he is. There's that moment where he throws off the wooden coat and goes, "And how may we help you?" kind of clap. It's adorable.
Yeah. Oh, and he's like, I need instantly, right? And it's water, right? And it's just great. I mean, he's like there's so much of him that's like a children's party magician, like he's just got these flourishes, as you say, and he's great. And I just remember loving it. And About Time talks about the experience of having it gone, the discovery of it, right? So it was gone, and all anybody had was the Target novelizations, and then the discovery of it, and it was so exciting. And then here comes the video, and there's a level of disappointment because, like, absence makes the heart grow fonder, sort of thing. And that was, almost my experience, right? Like, I was, the absence of video in the previous ones. I get video.
Because it was a lot. And what's weird now that you could go back now with all the animated.
Yeah.
And see the season. I mean, and they'll be different. I mean,
Yes.
The Abominable Snowman's the last one because BBC America's pulled out of the production of animated episodes, hoping right. Bad Wolf picks up that dollar. Send some dollars. But we'll be able to see this season in its entirety now.
It's
amazing.
It was really thrilling to be able to see, and I like the different animation styles.
I do too. I like variety is best.
I think so, because I think if I only saw the one style, there's a kind of a herky-jerky motion to one of the groups that animates, and I think if I only saw that,
they've gotten better at it. It's gotten a little more fluid. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I think they did this one.
It doesn't bother me, right?
No,
it doesn't bother me because it's not the only thing I'm seeing, and I think that going with different production companies is really a good idea. But I did have this sort of, oh, wait a second, because I was looking forward to it. And I was like, oh, wait a second, how come I keep drifting off? Like, I wasn't falling asleep, but my mind would wander. I wasn't staying with the story because I think it's not super well written. And there's a little bit of running down ice corridors.
Yeah, and it is. And what strikes me is you and me did not have the luxury of watching 25 minutes and then taking a week.
Right.
Because they're structured to be watched for 25 minutes and wait a week.
Right.
So they don't. And when I saw them in the movie,
that's been true with all of these.
Yeah.
Right. And there's some of them that hold your attention a little bit better.
This time did a little bit better. I was focusing more on the two guys living in the old museum. Mm-hmm. Wallace and the Angus from The Great Escape. Mm-hmm. The one guy ends up becoming Wallace and Grumman, and the other guy is the guy we know from the cell next door to Steve McQueen in The Great Escape.
Yeah.
And he's Fergus. He's Angus in. He's Fergus in Great Escape, and he's Angus in Loch Ness, the Loch Ness Monster.
His name is Angus, yes.
Is it? I think he's played with that accent. You're gonna play a dude named Angus.
Angus Lenny is
Yes.
Storr in this, and Peter Salis is Penley,
Yeah.
who ultimately voices Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. Yeah, and we've talked before, you bring this up all the time, that art is something that is experienced in the time that you watch it.
Yes, the
And,
science, anti-science. Is this where we're going?
Yeah.
It really hit me this morning. When I was
really,
drinking my coffee, I went,
well, you remember I said, I don't remember if it was last week or recently, I've said on here that the best, excuse me, cough button.
mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet, right, and it was a quote that said, "We have fetishized freedom," and I pointed to the anti-hero, and that I believe that people who are rejecting science and rejecting what they see as the establishment and see themselves in a heroic lens, right? See themselves as the scientist who's walked away from the middle management, computer-bound rigidity of the establishment and has gone out to live with the loyalists, right? Who's gone out to live with the people who reject that and embrace freedom and embrace, it was an anti-science, anti-computer, that wouldn't have struck me at all the last time I watched this.
Yeah.
And this time it was exactly that, and I cringed.
Yeah, I had just listened to a clip of Joe Rogan and another comic, and I don't remember his name because he can't be that good a comic if I've never heard of him. Talking about, doubling down on, people trust Rogan because he's honest. And I think he is honest. He's honest. He speaks his mind.
It's his truth.
It's his truth, and I don't have a problem. And I have no problem with him expressing his viewpoint. Sometimes he's an idiot. He will self-correct. He will, and one made to, but that's, I'm not going to get, but that's everybody. Everybody can be a fat.
No,
but they were going, well, we're speaking the truth, but the media is lying because they have fact checkers. They're journalists. Yes, they have a slant. But you're just uneducated people spewing stuff. Comics think they're fucking geniuses. They're not. They're no smarter than the average bear. There are some very incredibly intelligent comedians. George Carlin.
Smart doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
Smart doesn't mean anything about
They're not
this.
educated, You're not educated. You don't have an expertise. Expertise is important.
Right.
I don't want my plumber. I don't want a carpenter working on my pipes.
Listen, I've said this to my kid over and over and over again, that you have to recognize that even though the kid is sitting next to you in class, might be struggling with the subject in front of you, and you don't struggle with it, there are subjects that he doesn't struggle with that you're going to need his help on. Like, I grew up with kids whose parents owned service stations, right? And the number of car mechanics that came out of my high school class was huge, right? Probably greater than average. And honestly, if I still lived there, my cars would be in the best shape because my friends know how to do something that I don't know how to do. And they're good at it, right? Now, I'm super fancy educated, right? But I can't drive, as a lawyer, if I can't get to court in my car, I'm no good, right? So we have to value people with different expertise and backgrounds. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to open the hood of my car and try and take my engine apart, right? I can point at fan belts, where the oil goes, right? I could intuit my way through an oil change because I've done one before because somebody showed me how. Similarly, I could guess that my appendix was exploding.
Yeah.
but I'm not going to operate on myself or anybody else.
No shit.
And that's the difference, right? Like, I can think about these things through my own understanding. But when you get down to well, I'm not sure that a vaccine is what I want to put in my body, because it just doesn't seem like they've studied it long enough, or you know what? Or this doesn't seem bad. I don't know anybody that's died from it. And I'm like, how you feel about AIDS? You know, if you've never watched anybody die from HIV-related illnesses, right? If you've never watched anybody, and most people in the world haven't. You and I are different.
Oh, good God.
Right? You and I are different because we existed in a world and we're surrounded by people who were impacted by that. But the majority of people in the world haven't known somebody.
Yeah.
Haven't watched somebody go through it. And so, okay, you think this isn't bad? We'll inject you with HIV and you come back and tell us later.
Yeah.
What your experience is of it. We have to rely on other people's experience, and we have to rely on other people's expertise. And you know what? We have to rely on computers sometimes. Their portrayal of the computer. Look, the science. The problem with this story is that the science is terrible.
Oh my God!
Right?
It's Buck Rogers science.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And I'm a fan of Doctor Who and British science fiction because it doesn't have to make sense. But you get rid of all of the trees, right? You're not going to get more carbon dioxide. I just can't be, right now, I'm not afraid of glaciers enclosing on us.
Yeah.
Right? I'm afraid of them melting. Right? So setting this up as a fear, like, oh no, we might have too many glaciers. I'm like, please give us some more glaciers, please. Right? Let's please replace the ones that are disappearing. So like the menace of it wasn't quite working for me. The science wasn't quite working for me. I hate stories in the future, and this is me, right? And this is my perspective in the year. Not the year I was born, which is when this story was done, but the year that I'm existing in now. Save me from stories set in the future where women are wearing mini skirts and go-go boots, Like, let's just picture an Arctic base in the year 3000.
Yeah.
Picture an Arctic base in the year 2022. The women are wearing warm clothes.
Mm-hmm.
just warm, right? I've actually worn a skirt that short. There's nothing warm about it.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing warm about it. So, misogyny existing in the future is hard.
Yeah, that doesn't make it, and it's I'm a big Star Trek fan, and the Starship Enterprise is an unsafe work environment.
Yeah.
What's sad is sometimes I think Riker's worse, and I listen to a podcast called Mission Log, and they refer to it when he puts the moves on a woman being the full Riker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's art reflects its time, and it wants
yeah.
and they want to say, look, we're looking toward the future, but you're.
In 1966, skirts that short were freedom for women.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. It's just there's a cognitive dissonance to it, and please don't make that happen in the future.
Yes. Yeah, I got you. I know it's insane. It's really insane. The costumes are very. I'm so glad modern science fiction television has gotten away from future clothes.
Yeah.
Because our clothes doesn't. I mean,
That's
our clothes has changed.
Mm-hmm.
They went from being very minimal to being practical to
Mm-hmm.
being very flamboyant if you're wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like 16th, 17th, 18th century. That's not practical clothing.
Right. But only if you're wealthy.
Yeah, but only if you're wealthy. You would wear these incredibly impractical things.
Mm-hmm.
But you would wear a jacket and a shirt, you'd have layers. We wear layers for a reason, so you can doff and don when needed to adjust the temperature. So
Well, these people aren't leaving the building. Right?
Yeah, and the only thing they put on to protect them is basically something as thick as the hoodie you buy at a baseball game in case it rains.
Right. Or a plexiglass shield in front of your face. Like, I don't even know. But I mean, maybe our earbuds would look silly to them, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I thought they were good looking.
It was neat. It was a neat choice. I was like, okay, that's a neat choice.
But you're right, and sci-fi's gotten away from it. And the one that I think is really in my head is Firefly, right?
Yeah.
Firefly, the clothes were normal.
It was just modern day. Battlestar Galactica was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just suits and ties.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a change in fashion, and it's interesting to watch fashion writing right now because we went to a elastic band, right? Like everybody for a year only wore clothes that had like elastic on them.
Yeah.
And that and it was causing people to rethink, what they wore. And so fashion writers were writing about that. And then they started saying, oh, now that we can go back into the world, fashion is going to make a comeback, right? And I'm not sure it has, right? Like, no, because at this point, I'm resentful of shoes. If I have to lace something, I'm like, oh, God, right?
I don't even untie my sneakers anymore.
Yeah, but if it doesn't slip on, I'll give up on the entire project. Right? Like, oh God, I'm not going to take the trash out. I'd have to put on shoes. Right? So I don't know what modern fashion is going to look like, but it's not that. Let's hope.
Yeah.
I mean, so this one was, to this watch, it was disappointing because I was looking forward to it, because I remembered liking it. And so when I couldn't stay dialed in, I was surprised because I was really and there's nothing big going on in my life right now, nothing that's preventing me from focusing on, right? Like this was just, I kept drifting off. It wasn't hooking me.
Yeah, it didn't really. It took the first time through was really rough for me. The second time this morning at about 4 a.m. when I woke up was a little bit easier. So,
but I can't really highly recommend this one. It's just, except it's a good example of that fetishism of freedom.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't really strike me. It is like it's. I don't know. It could be if I was just bored and I was just pulling one randomly for some mild entertainment, I would enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I think I do prefer the second one with the moon and the transmat. Mm-hmm. The rocket stuff's a little silly, but it's fun and it's better paced. The soap machine, whatever, but it was, this one just it didn't really groove with me. I did like some of the performances.
Oh, they were great.
Yes, they were.
All
of the guest cast was
completely
awesome.
Seriously. No, and I mean, Victoria's given.
Oh my God, they gave her something to do, so it's interesting.
Right, but she's doing the best with she's got. Right, Jamie's great as always. Fraser Hine is wonderful. Mm-hmm. Troughton is wonderful. Right, but it's the materials just sort of gets lost. But they're all playing it 100% seriously. The Clerk is great. Mm-hmm. Now, that's another thing about Time brought up, is that he's a serious actor, or at the time was considered a serious actor, was on a serious television show, was a drama, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And
people were surprised that he agreed to do Doctor Who, and in retrospect, in particular, people were like, he was on Who? And it's true with the whole cast. And about time, in this article makes a really compelling argument that says, listen, we're missing episodes of Doctor Who from this era. We're missing episodes of everything. You don't have the comparative television shows to watch. You're not watching Koro from 1966, right? Mm-hmm. But what there is of it is pretty bad. And he said, what there is of anything surviving from this era makes Doctor Who, and this one in particular, look like Shakespeare. This is great television coming out of the BBC for its era. And they don't always do that, right? These authors sometimes get really persnickety about production, and they put up a defense of this one that I think makes a lot of sense. We don't have reams and reels of the shows that were airing opposite this. We can't compare it.
Yeah.
For the same reason we can't watch some of it. We can't compare it.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think what we're seeing, we're lucky because what we are seeing, for the most part, of classic Who in the black and white era, is better than some of the stuff you're talking about. The soap and maybe some of the sitcoms.
That's what they're saying. Is it that this was head and shoulders above?
Yes, this was groundbreaking.
And not just the production, but also the writing. And that's why good actors, like the guy playing Clert, signed on. This was good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're firing,
well, you see, and I think you see that in modern Who's, people go, how are they getting these guests? It's Doctor Who.
Right.
It's Doctor Who. They're going to be remembered for what It's something to show their kids. It's something. That they watched as a child, and it is in a lot of ways, any era, people wanted to work with Moffat, people wanted to work with Davies, people wanted to work with Chibnall, you know what I mean?
It's top tier stuff.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Top drawer.
It's top drawer stuff.
Yeah.
And this is, and for this time, does this hold up over the era? In a nostalgic way, yes. Yeah. I do enjoy it on some level because it's a Patrick Troughton second Doctor story.
That's
and it's
right.
one we actually have, we can see the real thing. So it has this nostalgia. So will I watch this again, just put it in randomly on a rainy, cold day? Maybe.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Troughton. There are plenty of people who make the argument that Troughton is the most important Doctor.
Yes, and we've had this discussion, and I do not think that's wrong.
Yeah. That without Troughton being successful at converting the character, it wouldn't have worked. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking about it. And but there's a quirkiness to him that I love, that keeps him in my top 3. Right? I am a 10, 2, and 7 fan.
Yeah.
Hands down. I mean, like a lot of people, whoever I'm watching, I'm always like, oh yeah, that really is up there, right? And Jodie. I think now that we're reaching the end of Jodie's era, there's a playfulness and a quirkiness that descends from Troughton. And the through line is from her very first episode, where she gives essentially the same speech that Troughton gives in Tomb of the Cybermen about missing their people. It's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it is, and it's all with all of classic Who is. It's that thing where they're not always given what would make them shine more,
Sure.
Yeah, I like Brian Hales as a story writer. I think he writes his concept. This is a good concept.
Yes.
All of his other ones. And I had just talked on Doctor Who Literature with Jason about, I read the target book for Curse of Peladon, the third one. That's a great one because that's the one where they're not the villains. They're just another race, and they end up on the Doctor's side, and they support him, and they're an ally. And that I love, and Hales wrote it great, and David Troughton's great in it, the court intrigue. The second one with Sarah Jane, it's 6 parts. It doesn't need to be. The Curse of Paladins 4, it works. The book was great-ish. It was okay. But David Troughton reading the book, oh my God, so good.
I bet.
And he did Joe, and he did himself, and he did Pertwee. It was wonderful. But I actually think probably that is the better, my favorite Ice Warrior story. And I do think it's his. There's some stuff in it, it needed they all needed another rewrite, but they just didn't have time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Can we also talk about in the guest cast, the guy playing the Ice Warriors, right? Like, he cements a character that matters in Doctor Who lore, and he delivers something, he's memorable. And About Time tells us that he was improvising that stuff on day one.
Yeah.
Right? That's all his contribution. Sounding like Ka from Jungle Book, with his hissing laughter and the neck twists and he's huge, and casting Angus Lenny to, next to him is great, but he's huge, and he's monstrous, right? Like, he delivers it. It's a cool thing. So yeah, I have a fondness for the story. It didn't come, I don't know, my watching it this time is just proof of your maxim that we view art through the times that we live in.
I've seen, you see stuff and you love it, and you go back and you rewatch it and you hate it. There's stuff that I have loved one time, hated the next, and liked the next time. It's just, I don't want to judge it. I don't want to make absolutes. I've tried, and I think over the course of the 5 years we've been doing this, I'm not dealing in absolutes because I just can't anymore. Because I watch people on social media and in the world live with these absolutes, and they're just cutting themselves off from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's asinine. Absolutely asinine. So. But, this one's okay. I'm glad we did it. The next Troughton one is one I can't wait. It's Enemy of the World.
Yeah, I love this one. Because...
and this is one where we can talk, and that one we will probably talk about perceived fans' wisdom before and after it was found. You know what I mean? So
I wonder if the Target book wouldn't also, because they talk about that was
what people read,
what people knew of the story for this one.
Hey, Maya. Hey, I'm in the middle of podcasting. Can I call you back in a minute? Of course. All right, I'll give you a call. All right, I'm good. I'll just have to edit. Hold on a second. 36 minutes. Okay. All right. What were you saying? Were you talking or was I talking?
You were.
That the book was... I don't remember the book. I've read the Target novels before I met you. That's how long ago I read them.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
We're talking like 40 years at this point. Yeah.
This August coming up, wait a minute. No. I will have lived in Richmond, not counting the 2 times I had to go back to save money. This August it will be 39 years I've lived in Richmond.
Yeah.
So
it's close to 35 that we've known each other.
So, but yeah, I have not read those books since my sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
So,
but having that in your head, right? They said at one point that in About Time that people were imagining Brian Blessed in their head, and so they were surprised that the tone of the conversations in the book, the way that that's drafted, is starkly different. So than what's on the screen in Ice Warriors. So I wonder if that's also the case with Enemy of the World. I just love it because Troughton, the shackles are off.
Yeah, that's true.
He gets to.
Yeah, how do you
menace.
How do you write Troughton's personality?
Well, yeah, no.
So, and I and because I read I talked to Jeff about this. It's
like writing Charlie Chaplin.
Well, yeah, it is in a lot of ways. But it's like when I read the novels, I hadn't seen them.
Right.
Because I saw Baker, Davison, Baker, Hartnell, Troughton, Pertwee, McCoy.
Yeah.
In that order. So.
You didn't see any Pertwee before you saw Hartnell?
No, because
they didn't do any omnibus.
No, what they did is when they bought the omnibus, when it switched over to Maryland and off of Howard, it moved. So it went from their omnibus, and then the new package came out. So where they were.
This is public television.
Yeah, public television. So they were showing the
Howard
Baker
University.
omnibuses, and then they were going to sell the omnibuses for the Davison and stuff. So they picked it up. So you went through it, and we got the Invasion of Time, and then all of a sudden we were in the Key to Time. Wait a minute, this is a Doctor Who I've never seen. And then we got by the time we got through Davison, I was in Richmond when I saw Davison. Huey was, so I was, and I've talked about this 1,000 times on the podcast, of making tapes and wiggling them in and blah, blah, blah. So.
Right. So. But that shout out to the two channels that were showing them to you. The Maryland Public Television was the one that picked it up after Howard University Public Television had stopped showing them, and Howard being one of the premier HBCUs in the United States.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was great. So what else do we have? Well, I mean, there's a quick one this week. It's not bad. I've got a lot of editing to do, and I'm going to take a shower now and go get some sunshine, maybe take the dog for a walk. I might just go take a walk and then come back and get the dog. Been a rough couple weeks at work. I actually had the whole weekend off, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some editing and hang out. It's supposed to be cloudy and gross tomorrow, so I might just go meander through the city for about 45 minutes.
Well, that's a good,
what is
that
our
sounds
next
like a good
one?
plan.
What is our next
That's what I'm looking at right now.
All right. Well, we're going to do a Pertwee next. I will be...
Day of the Daleks?
Day of the Daleks. Yes, it is. All right.
And then Curse of Peladon right after that.
Curse of Peladon. That'd be nice. I've just rewatched that. So, but that's so many weeks away. So
no, exactly. It's half a year. But no, you know what's going on for me right now? What? I ordered bees.
Oh, I heard. What's going on? Do you have your bees?
No, I don't have them yet. I ordered them. I'm taking a class, and beginning of March, I get to do hands-on stuff, but I've selected the site where my hives are going to go. I'm assembling my first hive.
Do you have to have them a certain distance away?
No, they're honeybees, right? Honeybees are not particularly stingy.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I think most stings are normally wasps, hornets, and yellow jackets. They're carnivores.
Yeah.
And honeybees are not. They're vegetarians. So, they can, in bad situations, they can turn into cannibals, but they really, it's only a defensive measure for them. And so if they feel threatened, they'll sting you. But honeybees aren't particularly, they're not aggressive. And because whatever we've done, whatever steps we've taken in steps towards domestication, they're not really domesticated, but we've been trying to breed. You try and breed the gentle ones, right? You try and breed the non-aggressive ones. So it'll be out by the chicken coop. It's they need fresh water, and we've got a spring on our property. It's not, the creek is actually It's not just water runoff; it's a spring that comes up out of the ground. So we're going to put them by the creek. But yeah, I'm super excited because it's I was only kind of excited about doing it. But the more I learn about them, they're fascinating. They're absolutely fascinating. And I think it used to be a pretty easy care and feeding of. And at this point, 45% of colonies fail.
Ooh.
Due to disease and pathogens. So knowing that I'm going to have I have a 55% chance of success helps, I think. And there's not going to be any honey for at least the first year, if not longer. And
yeah, because it takes them forever to make it, doesn't it?
Well, it takes energy. They're building up the comb in the first year and trying to survive. And
Gotcha.
So you feed them a lot of sugar water. So what you get if you take anything, what you get in the first year is not nectar based, but refined sugar that's been processed by them and everything. So it's still sweet, but it's not actually honey. And so,
Gotcha.
But you're really trying to get them to build up enough stores to survive through the first winter. And if you can do that, then you can start to really open up opportunities for them to build more. And then it's up to them how well they produce and how much extra they do above and beyond what they need. So, but they're fascinating. They're flippin' fascinating. What they manage to do and how they do it. And they're almost Borg-like, that there's a collective understanding that comes just out of the passing of information through pheromones and movement. It's fascinating. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying what I'm learning and the setup and everything. And it's a busy season around here, right? We pick up at this time of year, and you got to start the seeds, and you got to start any building projects that are going to happen, and expanding of the garden and all of that. So it's a busy time. And my neighbor's animal rescue farm, that he had to move the animals to a different location because he needed more land. Well, the new location's now filled, and he's bringing animals back.
I saw you had new donkeys in the back.
We have donkeys.
Aww.
They're the best. They're the best. Here, you'd think that if you heard a donkey braying outside your window at 6 o'clock in the morning, it would piss you off because it woke you. And it just doesn't. It's just such a lovely greeting. So it's been nice weather. It's going to turn cold again, but even if it's not pouring down rain, if it's not schmutzing, right? Like I can get outside, and that's when I'm really at the happiest. So we got birthdays coming up around here.
Oh, yeah.
All sorts of fun stuff, but yeah, I get to be outside and get to feel purposeful about things, and it makes me really happy.
Yeah.
But bees.
That you've been talking that for a while too, haven't you?
Yeah, but getting the chickens delayed it because I wanted to get up to speed and get done with chickens. Right now, we've managed to keep. I didn't ever think I'd be able to get this long without any predator attacks. We've lost 2 chickens to illness, right? It just disease, or one fell over and died because chickens can have heart attacks. So we've lost a couple, but otherwise we haven't lost any to predators, which surprises the hell out of me. I assumed I got a fox living on my property.
Yeah.
Right. I get the den is on my property, and I've we have pictures of the fox staring at the chickens. And he got some tail feathers one day, but But we had to get that set up and running right. Now I can turn to the bees and the garden. And I didn't get the greenhouse done, but I did get the fencing almost complete. I've got 2 more stiles to go, but the ground froze before I could get to those last 2. So I've got 2 more stiles to go on the fencing when the ground stops freezing, and then I can put in the garden, put in the bees, and then I can build the greenhouse so that I can extend my growing season a little bit. So I'm very excited. Lots of projects, and a lot of it is the 2 things that I think I love most are learning new things, and I love to build things. It's like Legos for grown-ups. I love to build things. I had so much fun building the coop. I'm building a feed shed, so we can keep the feed out by the coop. And I'm just pulling pallets together and like standing in the back and wondering how to support the roof, and like just doing it without plans, and it makes me really happy. That's what I'm doing.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that's it. Hey, I think we may have Jeff back next week for Runcible Report. It looks like everything at home's getting better. We chatted about it, so hopefully, so if not, I will have a guest on for a special episode to fill that blank, and me and Vic will be back in 2 weeks with Day of the Daleks. You can find us on Facebook at Gallifrey's Most Wanted, a Doctor Who podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm the one normally doing the tweeting, at Gallifrey's MW Pod or at Runcible Report. Also, you can find me at my comic book podcast, Stop, Let's Team Up. But until then, we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.